Hey guys, my name is Jesse Frame. I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, and I currently live in Newcastle, Australia. I've been doing different martial arts since I was young, and when I was in college I got really into competitive kickboxing and karate. I wanted to compete. I started training regularly with my instructor, and as I was getting close to getting my black belt in Kempo karate, my instructor started to teach me about this jiu-jitsu stuff, and I'd never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to do it, and I'd never been into wrestling or anything like that, especially since I'm a smaller guy. I always thought, kicking and punching and being faster than my opponents would always be better. The whole wrestling thing was for big, strong guys, and I didn't really want to get into it, and he kept bringing it up and kept bringing it up, and so we'd have our classes or our training, and at the end he'd say, oh, you want to roll, you want to wrestle, you want to do this? And I always said yes, but I never really enjoyed it that much. Because I didn't know how to defend anything, I didn't know how to do anything. I just kind of wrestled around on the ground until he started breaking my arm off. And so as time went on, I started learning little bits here and there just from what he was learning and sharing with me. Started to get a little bit more interested in it, but it still wasn't part of what I wanted my martial arts experience to be like. It was just something extra. Throughout college, I ended up getting shoulder surgery and having to do some serious medical stuff with my shoulder, and so a lot of that competition sort of fell away after that. A lot of my training sort of fell off after that happened. Started a family, got married, was towards the end of my college career, and needed to start looking for full-time work and that sort of thing. So martial arts became less and less a part of my life. And fast forward, 10 years later, we've left the United States. We now live in Australia, and I've always loved karate. I've always loved kickboxing. I've always loved the competition of it, and so of course I've through the years watched UFC and all those different sorts of things. And you can't watch those things without knowing it's all about jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter how good at karate or kicking or striking you are. If you don't have some sort of ground game, you're just not going to be successful in those things. And so I kept sort of seeing that coming back up, and as the UFC developed through the years, how important jiu-jitsu has become a part of that entire full contact, no holds barred kind of fighting scene. And so we left America. I sold everything. I sold my boxing stuff, my karate stuff. I didn't have a gi or anything by the time I got here. So I started training again through a series of circumstances here. I got invited to do this and invited to do that. And I ended up getting back into training for karate with one of my friends here in Australia. Ended up competing in a couple tournaments last year and doing that sort of thing. And so we got into this discussion with some of the people that I work with. I work for a nonprofit organization here at the church and doing some work with young people in the community. And we wanted to start a program where we could sort of interact with teenagers that we wouldn't otherwise have a connection with. And so we came up with the idea, why don't we start a martial arts program for free as sort of an outreach sort of thing for the community, for teenagers specifically, and we'll see what happens with it. And so we started a program called Kingdom Martial Arts. We run it here at the church building. It's free for teenagers. It's high school specific. We wanted to be flexible. We wanted to attract teenagers with a curriculum designed specifically for them. And so we ended up including Jiu-Jitsu as part of that. So I went online and looked at a lot of different things, and I'd heard, of course, a lot about the Gracie name, and so went to the Gracie Academy website and ended up purchasing the Combatives DVDs. And so we sort of, from the beginning, have integrated that into our curriculum here at Kingdom Martial Arts. It's not a business, it's not an official dojo or school, it's just sort of more like a club where they can come. We do boxing training, we do fitness training, work on their flexibility, their skills in different kicking and punching and self-defense kind of things. And it's really been a special program, and we've never done anything like this before. And so to be able to use Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as a bridge with these young people has been a really important part of what we're doing here. It's opened a lot of doors to connect with people in a way that otherwise wouldn't have happened. And so that's sort of the starting point of how specifically Gracie Jiu-Jitsu became part of my life. I currently train with our students here. Kingdom Martial Arts, again, is a nonprofit program that we run for local high school students. It's basically a combination of karate and jiu-jitsu. We focus a lot on self-defense, protecting yourself, keeping yourself safe, and to do that we use the Gracie Combatives DVD as part of our curriculum. There's no adults in the program because it's specifically for high schoolers, so my own personal training in jiu-jitsu can be a little tricky, can be a little harder, because I don't have necessarily people my size or people my skill or experience to train with. But the one thing that has been beneficial in that is I'm still learning. You know, I'm still going through the combatives myself, working towards my blue belt. And the format that we have with our students, you know, these crazy high school boys who just want to get in there and choke someone, you know, it allows me to sort of experiment and to keep that, you know, playful mentality with, I know I can beat them, but I don't have to. And I can roll with them, and I can, you know, practice certain techniques and work on certain aspects of my own jiu-jitsu and my own self-defense. And so I currently train with high schoolers most of the time. Every once in a while I'll get someone that'll come up and train with me that's my own size or even my experience, trains at one of the other schools in town. But it's been something that's sort of developed, and as I'm growing in my jiu-jitsu, the students are growing in their jiu-jitsu, and we're helping each other, and it's really been a fun thing to be a part of. Like I said before, I work for a nonprofit organization that's based in the United States, and I live and work at a church here in Australia. You know, I live next door to the church. I work at the church every day. The people here are my life. This building, our martial arts program is here, and so it really is part of my family, part of my life as someone living here. Last year we had a break-in. The church alarm went off in the middle of the night. It's like 3 a.m. and like I said, I live next door, so I got up and I come over and come inside and shut off the alarm, and I start looking around, and I didn't notice anything, and so I came back downstairs and just assumed, you know, something moved or a mouse crawled by or whatever, and set off the alarm. And as I was going out, one of the older members of our church, he's about 70 years old, was also on the phone list for the security company, so he came in and met me at the door, and I, you know, just said, oh, I think something set off the alarm. You know, I looked around, I didn't notice anything. And he said, well, let's go look around just to make sure. So I walked back up the stairs, and he's looking around in one area, I'm looking around in another area, and we noticed, well, one of the doors open upstairs. That's not usually open. And so I start looking around and realize someone's been in the building. All of the drawers were pulled out of the office, you know, all the closets were opened up, everything had been rummaged through. And so your brain automatically clicks into that destroy mentality, you know, like someone has been not just in my office or in my building, but this is part of my family. This is my home. This building is an extension of my home, and someone has been in here. And so we were looking around, and he had gone back down, the older fella had gone back downstairs, and I just happened to lean into the bathroom to look around, and as I leaned in, had my hand on the door as I leaned through, and I saw out of the bottom corner of my eye the person that had broke into the church was hiding behind the door of the bathroom and was right underneath me, and they were wearing a hooded sweatshirt, and they were covered up like this, cowering in the hood, so they didn't see me lean into the door. And I clenched my fist immediately. That rage just took over, you know, and I just clenched my fist, and I started raising my hand in the air, and right as I had just about come around the corner to where the guy was to just pounce on him, the older guy came back up the stairs, and he was standing there behind me. He didn't know that the guy was there. And so I backed up quietly and turned around and walked and kind of shooed him down the stairs. And we came back down the stairs, and eventually we closed it down, called the cops, and they came, and nothing happened. Actually, the guy ended up getting away because by the time we left, called the police, he got out through the window. And anyway, long story short was, I found myself in a situation where, as a martial artist, you almost sometimes hope for that kind of situation. And maybe that's a little extreme, but you kind of hope for that situation where you can test your skill, more than the ring, more than a competition, more than, just practicing, where this is a real life situation where your skills, your training are going to be put to the test. And I got to that point where my only response in that real life situation was go for it, I had no other answer to that scenario. And as someone who works with young people, someone who teaches that self-control, integrity, respecting other people, even if they're wrong, the next day, I go into our martial arts class and I'm sitting there and we sort of have a thought for the day at the end of class, and I'm supposed to talk to them about self-control. And it was really difficult for me to face that myself, because I know that if that older man hadn't been there and walked up behind me, it would have been on. And my only tools for that situation were go for blood, punch him as hard as you can, kick him as hard as you can, strike as hard as you can, because I didn't have any other tools. And at that point in time, if that situation had gone a different direction, I know that I would have lost my self-control, because I had no other response for that scenario. And I knew at that moment that striking martial arts could be effective, but not in the way that I wanted them to be. What would have happened if I would have injured that person? What would have happened if something seriously would have happened by me in my enraged state, just going for broke on this guy? And it could have been a really bad situation, and luckily it wasn't. But I knew at that point I had to learn jiu-jitsu better. So one of the things that has drastically changed about my personality, about my life, about my mindset, my philosophy as a martial artist, has been the transition from striking-based martial arts to grappling martial arts like jiu-jitsu. I knew at that point I had to learn more jiu-jitsu. It had to become something that I was better at, that I mastered, so that if I was ever in that situation again, I would know what to do. And I could do it without crossing any lines that I would otherwise regret. And jiu-jitsu offers the answer that other martial arts for me didn't offer in that situation. For anyone who is questioning whether jiu-jitsu's for them, whether they can do it, whether they're physically able to, I would say I've got two small children. One of them's 3, one of them's 6. They both love doing the jiu-jitsu games. They love just wrestling around and learning things, and that experience of just, we bond that way. And it's fun, and it's exercise, and it's good for them, and it's healthy, and they're learning jiu-jitsu at the same time. We have high school young ladies in our program who weigh 75 pounds dripping wet, and they're learning to defend themselves against these 130-pound high school boys, and they're still able to do it because jiu-jitsu works, because the principles work. Our young men, our young ladies, they're learning these things at all different levels. And we've had some students in our class who have no athletic ability almost at all. And they've done so well because they're learning the techniques, they're getting comfortable in the positions, and they're working with their own bodies. Most of them aren't very flexible, most of them aren't really strong, most of them aren't that, they're not super coordinated like Bruce Lee athletes or anything like that, but they're learning the techniques in a way that works for them. And they're gaining confidence because of that. And so embarking on this jiu-jitsu journey isn't about becoming one of those people who can choke anyone, or becoming one of those people who's incredibly fit and fast and strong. Going on this jiu-jitsu journey is about improving yourself. It's about testing your own limits. It's about pushing yourself to be a better person, not just on the mat, but in your whole life. We challenge our students to be growing in all areas of their life, and when they accomplish something in Jiu-Jitsu, when they accomplish something in martial arts, that gives them the confidence, the courage, the self-motivation to continue growing in other areas of their life. And so, I'm not Horse Gracie. I can't beat every opponent that stands in front of me, but I can be a better me because of my training. I can challenge myself to move one step ahead and to move one step ahead. And so if you're questioning whether or not you should embark on the journey of taking on Jiu-Jitsu as part of your life, let me just encourage you that it will improve who you are. Physically, emotionally, mentally, it will allow you to become a better person because it brings you to a place where you're comfortable trying hard, where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you can master those things physically, it can allow you to master those other parts of your life that are also difficult or uncomfortable. So I encourage you to take the challenge, find somewhere to train, buy the DVDs, do it in your own home, do whatever it takes, and see if Jiu-Jitsu can be part of something that transforms who you are as it has transformed part of who I am. So far for me in the last couple of years, the biggest roadblock, not just in Jiu-Jitsu but physically in general, has been a recent knee injury. It's been something that's been extremely frustrating, especially as someone who comes from a background of doing karate, where I'm used to being able to pound on bags with my legs, to do Muay Thai style training, and to be able to kick, to be able to balance well, to be able to move and be quick and light on my feet. And because of my knee injury, I don't quite have that anymore. And it's gotten to the point now where I'm looking at possible surgery in the future, and it's been frustrating because it limits my mobility. It limits the techniques that I've spent years and years working on and perfecting and training and strengthening, and now my kicking isn't half what it was just a few months ago. And so that's been a big roadblock to me, and particularly in Jiu-Jitsu, the flexibility, the moving around, just even being in the guard position can put pressure on my knee that hurts, and so it makes training difficult. And it's become one of those things where I've had to slow down. I've been forced to do things in a way that I wouldn't otherwise do them. Even wrestling on the mat, it's changed the way I interact with an opponent or a student on the mat because I just can't do certain things. But it's been a growing experience too, and even though it's been a roadblock, it's been something that has allowed me to grow as a martial artist, knowing that I'm not going to be as fast as I was, or as strong as I was, or as flexible as I was 10 years ago, but I can still continue to work on my martial arts. I can still continue to grow as a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, as a Jiu-Jitsu student, and move forward even though my body still has physical limitations. I see these YouTube videos of the Grandmaster, rolling when he's like 85 years old, and it's just remarkable to me. And I know that's not just because he was lucky or didn't get the, it's because of his lifestyle. It's because of his commitment to good health, to taking care of his body, and these sorts of roadblocks continue to enforce in me. I want to have that commitment. I want to have a body that lasts for 100 years. I want to have a body that still allows me to do the things that I want to do, to wrestle with my kids, to protect my wife, to watch out for the bad guys who might break into our building, all those sorts of things that I want to be able to do. I know that even when stumbling blocks come in the way, that with hard work, with good training, with good health, that I can still overcome those things. And that's a confidence that comes not just from somebody's personality, but again, that goes back to the last question of getting on this journey of becoming a martial artist, becoming someone who's committed to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and to growing in that way. It gives you the confidence to know, even when obstacles come, there's either a way around, a way over, a way under, or a way to smash them out of the way. And I love that about being a martial artist, the confidence that comes with knowing, even when things are hard, you can still move forward, you can still keep pressing on, you can still grow, you can still improve. And Jiu-Jitsu for me, even with the obstacles, is going to be a way of life from now on. It's just part of who I am now. It's hard to say what the final goal of my jiu-jitsu journey is, but I can see the journey step by step from here, and jiu-jitsu has become something that I've just fallen in love with. It's something that I want to be part of my life, and so my initial goals is to pass the combatives course. I want to, either go down to Sydney and do my test at one of the schools there, or do my video testing and pass the combatives course, get my blue belt, and I would really like to pursue the possibility of becoming a certified instructor for the combatives and for the bully-proof program. I love getting to work with young people. Martial arts, and particularly jiu-jitsu, is one of those things where it's a benefit to them. Bullying is a huge problem, not just in the United States in schools, but it's a huge problem in Australia as well. And we get to give the kids the confidence to be able to stand up to those bullies, the confidence to be agents of change in their schools and in their communities, people who stand up for what's right, who live a lifestyle that shows other people that there's a better way, and that bullying isn't welcome here, and bullying is not something we'll tolerate. And we get to give our young people the tools to be able to do that where they otherwise wouldn't be able to. So I would love to be certified as an instructor, to be able to teach programs like Bully Proof, to be able to teach programs like Combatives, to have my blue belt. And really, I guess the final goal is just to be someone who's committed to jiu-jitsu. I can't see myself doing kickboxing and Muay Thai and karate for the rest of my life. I would like to, but with knee injuries, with age, with time, with flexibility, those things become progressively more difficult. But I can see myself in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, hopefully in 40 or 50 years, still teaching, still rolling, still learning on that jiu-jitsu journey. I want jiu-jitsu to be part of my life forever. And that's my destination, to be someone who's committed to a martial arts lifestyle, someone who continues to share, to grow myself, and to help other people grow on their journey. And so, my last thought is just to simply say thank you. Thank you for not only making jiu-jitsu available around the world, but thank you for the enthusiasm, thank you for the quality of the instruction, thank you that I can go on my computer, I can jump on my DVD player, I can have my lesson plans, I can do all of those things halfway around the world from the Gracie Academy and still know that I'm getting quality instruction, quality jiu-jitsu training, and that I can pass that on to other people as well. So thank you for making jiu-jitsu available. Thank you that it reaches all the way into Australia. Thank you for taking the time to watch our videos. Thank you for making these opportunities and these Gracie giveaways. Yeah, thank you guys for everything. Now, I heard that Henner has recently got engaged, so I thought I'd do a special bonus breakdown video for you guys just to keep it real for you. But this is my training partner, Kayla. She's 9 days old, and she's going to help me demonstrate the 4 points of control in the standard variation. Oh, see, she's demonstrating already. Good work. The standard variation of the front lock baby control technique. Now, one of the things you'll notice is when they're newborns, they're very squirmy, right? So you got to get full control to keep them safe. So the mounting technique for little ones, their face and their hands get all curled up. So thumbs under the arms, pull them up right here, and lay them down onto the shoulder. That way they've got nice, comfortable head positioning, good arm positioning. A lot of people use the burp rag technique underneath just in case. Probably should have been a good idea for today, but she's pretty good on that side. So we're going to demonstrate the proper lockdown procedure to get full control over your baby, right? So you'll notice I've got good solid elbow control right here, all right? Key detail, this forearm becomes a cross beam to support baby, right? 90-degree angle here. All of the support goes across the center of their bottom, right? You get too high, you start squeezing the baby, not good. Too low, they might pop over the edge. So you got to get full in, all the way in, nice and tight. Wrap the arm, snug, lock down. Grabbing your opposing bicep right on top, swing the arm up. Now, this is why we got 4 points of control here, right? You've got the bottom, solid elbow control. This is the main place that's going to hold baby's weight, right? Second point of control, chin, inside chin, neck, nice and nuzzled, close in there. That gives you the side control this way. Third point of control, your shoulder. That gives you side control this way. Fourth part, when you get that lockdown, arm comes up directly for the pat technique, right? 4 points of control, full lockdown, all directions, back, forward, left, right. Baby's not going anywhere. Solid control right here. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, right, when you get full lockdown right here, is to evenly distribute baby's weight on both arms. You hold all the weight on this arm. Once your kid starts growing, it gets heavy, right? We want technique, good balance. So when you lock in, get a good, nice, high grip on your bicep, close it down, lock it, and even distribution on both shoulders. That way, you don't overly fatigue that arm, right? Snug, cozy, full lockdown. Perfect this with your baby, you'll be ready to move on to slice 2, which is the underarm pass to switch sides without waking them up. 100%, you'll love it. Perfect slice 1 before you move on to slice 2.